What's up, everyone? My name is James Lynch, and this is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for tuning in a little bit later. I know we usually go at our earlier time slot of usually 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, but our guest today, David Quadrelli, who's going to be joining us here shortly in the next little bit here, in the next 30 minutes, actually, I should mention. This was one of the few times I could get him on, so wanted to do the show a little bit later. Obviously, the big news right now, since the last time we had this show, was the trade with Quinn Hughes. I'm going to break all this down shortly. We'll talk about some of the NHL action last night. We'll look ahead to tonight as well, and some of the things that we're hearing sort of behind the scenes with the NHL right now. It's getting really interesting right now. Of course, we got the World Juniors going to be happening here pretty soon. We got the the exhibition stuff going on, so lots to get into today. If you guys have any questions for myself or for David, again, David going to be joining us here 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific time. If you have any questions for him or any questions for me, post them in the chat. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Once I see them come up on the screen. I do see your question here, Mike. We'll definitely get to that in a second. But let's first break down the Quinn Hughes deal. I know for some of you this is going to be repeating things, but I wanted to give my take on the trade that was on Friday. Just out of nowhere, Quinn Hughes going to Minnesota. So when I heard this deal, and I'll talk to David about this as well, but I'll tell you guys right off the bat. So I'm on the phone with my TV provider. I was having an issue with my set-top box and my PVR, and I was on the phone. And while this is going on, actually, I have a Discord with a bunch of friends which is related to like the UFC and all that. And someone in my Discord was the one who broke the news to me. They're like, Quinn Hughes to Minnesota, and I was like, what? Like, no one predicted this. Not the insiders, not Elliot Friedman, not Frank Saravalli. Like, nobody predicted that Minnesota was going to be like a front runner for landing Quinn Hughes, but they end up getting it done, and a pretty good deal here, I think, for both sides. That's kind of my overall takeaway from this. And it's rare to have a trade like this where you do see so much positivity coming, at least from the Canucks end, because typically you see a lot of people who don't like it. Now, of course, if you dig deep enough, people are very upset with Hughes getting traded, best player in franchise history. But if you look at what the Canucks got back, I think they did quite well considering the circumstances. We had a player who was very visibly not going to be coming back. We got a little bit more on that, but the trade itself is as follows. So you have Quinn Hughes traded to the Minnesota Wild, no salary retained, nothing like that. Vancouver receives Marco Rossi, who's a center. So if you remember, the Canucks for the longest time have been linked to Rossi. They've been trying to replace that second line center position since they traded JT Miller last year. So they get their second line center. Great move here on that front. Liam Ogren, who's a top pick that hasn't really panned out for Minnesota, to be honest. He's kind of one of these sort of reclamation projects, but did actually score last night, which was good to see. But the big piece in this deal, even though Rossi is sort of filling that second line center need, is Zeev Bulliam, the defenseman, who a lot of people just across the board, we had Stephen Ellis on this show a couple of weeks ago. He absolutely raves about Zeev Bulliam, a very high draft pick here from Minnesota, someone that looks like he could be a future top pairing defenseman here. So that was sort of the key one in this trade here. Bulliam, already 20 years old, or just turned 20 recently. There's a lot of potential here for him to, fill that number one defense role in the future here, and look great in his first game. Of course, they played New Jersey, which was Hughes' brother's team, Luke and Jack Hughes, and they ended up winning that game 2-1, but Bulliam getting his first goal in that game and looking quite comfortable out there. And I think a lot of Canucks fans, this to me is sort of the big centerpiece of this deal, is the Bulliam acquisition in here. And I think a lot of fans are happy about this, just the way he plays, his attitude, all that. That to me is the big one. And then on top of that, they get the first round pick in the 2026 draft. And as we know, very deep draft this year. So getting a pick in this year's draft, very, very big. If this was, 2027, 2028, people wouldn't be as happy. A lot of fans are wondering, and this is something I'm going to have to ask David when he hops on here, are the Canucks going to keep this pick? Let's hope they do, right? When they got the first round pick in the JT Miller deal last year, they traded it right away to get Marcus Pettersson, and a lot of fans would have liked it if they kept that pick and used it in last year's draft, which was also a strong draft. But this year's draft looks very strong, so we'll see if they hold on to it. But yeah, I will say, just, from people I've talked to that have watched the Canucks this year, it's been a really tough season. They're still 32nd overall in the standings. And I'll say that this trade has got people engaged again. I have friends that, watched the game last night. I was texting with them. They were mentioning like how interested they are in this team. And we got this question from Mike here. It says, I like the changes the Canucks are making. It's great news. I think there's a lot of relief if you look at last year, starting with the JT Miller feud and everything that was happening there, it was a big distraction. And I feel like the Quinn Hughes trade rumors were also a big distraction. And what didn't make matters better was there were a few plays this year, and I know there's, the fan base has sort of been divided on this. There were a number of times in games leading up to the trade with Quinn Hughes where he didn't look like he was trying. Just poor body language, poor attitude. And that's an easy way to get fans to turn on you. There's certainly been a lot of fans not happy with Quinn Hughes and how he exited things and all that. And that's understandable. But at the end of the day, the person to blame, or the people to blame for the Quinn Hughes trade, if you're trading your best player in franchise history, ultimately is the management group. They weren't able to make a good enough team to put Quinn Hughes in a position where he wanted to stay here long term. And I get it for Hughes. My only thing, and this is where I do agree with some fans out there, it would have been better to see Hughes handle this a little bit better on his way out. That's a small thing. I don't think it's as big as people are making it out to be. But I will point to someone like Bo Horvat, who saw JT Miller get re-signed a couple of seasons ago. He was the captain, and I didn't see him display any of that behavior. And I think it just goes to show that Bo Horvat is a true captain. I think with Quinn Hughes, maybe that's a role that he shouldn't have had. I think when they made him captain, part of it was the hope that he would re-sign. Obviously, he ends up leaving. But I think that's where people were a little bit upset, was just how things ended here. The facts are the facts, though. You can't deny it. Quinn Hughes, in my opinion, the best franchise player in Canucks history. So I wish him well. I'm actually intrigued to see how Minnesota does. It's still very weird to see him in the colors. I mean, if you go look at it right here with Quinn Hughes, like if you see him in the Wild jersey, it just looks a little bit weird, right? Right, we've got some images up here from Quinn Hughes the other night. I mean, seeing him in the Wild colors, it looks a bit odd, doesn't it? New Jersey, maybe. We always saw the mock jerseys over the years because, again, people just assume. And he could still go to New Jersey. This is the other thing we got to talk about the trade. Like, he might not come to terms with Minnesota, but listen, I like teams that do this. I think Bill Guerin is an absolute gangster for making this move because, this is what teams do to try and get to the Stanley Cup, is they make bold moves like this. Even if you're only getting two seasons out of Quinn Hughes, it's worth it to have a game changer like that. And I don't ever remember, since their inception, I don't remember Minnesota making a big trade like this before, where they have done something that's really caught the league's attention here. So to me, it's very interesting to see if this is going to be enough to put them over the hump. I still have some questions about Minnesota's goaltending a little bit. I know they've had some solid goaltending over the last couple of years, but it's not exactly proven. That's one thing I wonder about. But now you've got, Boldy, you've got Quinn Hughes, you've got Kaprizov. That's a dangerous unit. That's like a unit that will be a threat for years to come. So I think it was worth it for the Wild to do this. And again, I like them doing this. And this is another reason why I like the Vegas Golden Knights. They were known over the years for making big trades and big moves, right? Bringing in Pietrangelo, getting Jack Eichel. Those are moves that got them a Stanley Cup. I think this could be the same here for Minnesota. So I think, again, this is a win-win. I mean, even if Hughes leaves after 2 years, I still think it's a win-win because, to have a window now where you can legitimately say you could win a Stanley Cup is something to look at. And the other thing I'll point out too, with the parity in the standings this year and how things have looked with the condensed schedule, you never know. Colorado's kind of running away with the Western Conference right now. They clearly look like the best team in the league, but you add Quinn Hughes on a Minnesota Wild team that was already pretty strong. It certainly changes things. So I'm intrigued by that. And from a Canucks perspective, and we'll talk to David Quadrelli about this again in about 20 minutes. I think this move needed to happen because it just, what was happening wasn't working, right? Even if Hughes had stayed, even if Hughes had re-signed with the Canucks, you're still got this problem where this entire core, I don't think, was getting it done. And that's, again, something I'll ask David about, because I think this needed to happen. I was kind of, when I saw the season and the way it was unfolding, I'm like, if Hughes leaves, that's fine. It accelerates a bit of a rebuild here, right? Because you lose a franchise player like this, you're getting pieces back, but you're freeing up some cap room. You're getting other assets. You're having a different mix here. And I think that's ultimately what the Canucks need. Now, from my perspective, and again, John, I see your questions here. We'll absolutely get to those in a second. If I'm the Canucks, look, I don't think you need to do a full teardown rebuild. It would be great if they did, because as we've seen, the rebuilding teams do seem to, thrive, right? You look at what Anaheim's doing right now. San Jose, those are teams that are on the come up, on the up, right? You look at Colorado, there were a couple of years where they weren't so great and they had to, place low in the standings, and that's how they end up getting a Nathan McKinnon. So I'm fine with that. But Like, I don't mind if they're going to keep certain players to kind of help the younger players out. Like, you look at the under 25 prospect pool for the Canucks, it looks fairly good here. But again, you don't need to trade everyone. But who do I think like absolutely should be traded? Evander Kane absolutely should be traded if you can find anyone to take him. I think that's a no-brainer. Kiefer Sherwood absolutely should be traded, no questions asked. You want to dig in a little bit deeper. Like Connor Garland didn't look too happy the other night after he saw Hughes get traded in that post-game interview with New Jersey. If he wants to leave, and I know he signed a new contract, I'm fine with that too. I think the Canucks have to be a little bit careful here that they don't end up where they were last year, in the sense of I don't want to see them win a lot of games here. I want to see them end up low in the standings to get a draft pick. And I realize that if you've got Demko and then Pettersson coming back, that might not happen. You might end up again in the mushy middle outside the playoffs, and you're going to get a higher draft pick. And I just don't think that's what a lot of fans want. They want winners. And you look at these teams that win the cup, they typically get high draft picks. So I think that's where we're at too. It's going to be interesting. All right, let's get to John. You have no high M on Bulliam. I absolutely love this deal for the Canucks. Want to send Rossi our way. He's a Winnipeg fan, by the way. Yeah, no, I like Rossi too. Again, young guy. But yeah, Bulliam, I think it's just nice that they're getting like a really bona fide, like obviously they have prospects, right? They have Lekramaki, they have, Tom Vilander. These are, prospects that we're excited about, but Bullion brings like an edge. He can skate so well. I know there's some worries about his defensive play so far this season. And people wonder, like, is he going to end up being like a Tyson Barrie type thing where it's like a liability on the back end? That remains to be seen. But the nice thing is there's some hope and there's some optimism with these younger players. And I've heard a lot of Canucks fans talk about how, like, well, if they did a rebuild, no one would show up. I disagree. I mean, they're showing up now and the product isn't very good. I think if you had just any sort of sense of hope where you have these young guys and there's potential for them to be better, I think people are showing up. So I like Bulliam a lot. I mean, I was talking to people in my Discord, like I'm going to have to get a new Canucks jersey at some point because my Quinn Hughes one, obviously outdated. I would get a Z Bulliam one in a heartbeat. I think he's the guy that you want to be hitching your wagon to. He's literally one of the top 3 defensemen I've seen in 10 years, including Cale and Quinn. And you're not the first person to say that. Again, we had Stephen Ellis. I saw Stephen Ellis go on, actually, I think it was actually Quadrelli's show actually last week, and talking about, like his potential. And a lot of people, like across the league, everyone I've watched, because I watched a lot of analysis after this, just curious to hear what other people think. I haven't heard a single person say anything bad about Bulliam here. If you look at Minnie, can't get him signed, they flip him next year, we'll still get a great return. Well, I think if you're Minnie and you're going to do that, New Jersey's probably the team you look at, because I think you would be, well, it's tough to say though, because like what team is going to take Hughes knowing that, like I think if he doesn't sign in Minnesota, I think it's probably a foregone conclusion he's going to go to New Jersey. But I will give credit to the Canucks. They played this well, right? Get it ahead of this. You couldn't have let this go on any longer. And listen, as much as we don't like the Hughes body language and all that stuff, this did kind of accelerate things, right? If Hughes had just been kind of, doing his thing, do they force the hand as much? I think they needed to do this sooner rather than later, because the longer this goes on, the more the Canucks lose leverage, in my opinion. Prediction for the medals at the World Junior Hockey Championship. I'll ask Quadrelli about this because he knows the prospects a little bit better than I do. I'd have to look. I don't really know. I mean, obviously you've got, Gavin McKenna, and you've got a number of like highly rated Canadian players, but I got to look. Like I want to say Sweden's got to be one of the favorites too, with some of the prospects they have coming up in the draft. So it's going to be interesting. I got to do my research on that. I'll be honest. That's one thing I will be doing in the next little bit here with having some more time off, is I will dig in a little bit deeper to the prospects. But, I always listen to you, John, when it comes to the college prospects and everything else. So, yeah. So, again, talked about the Hughes trade. Big trade here. Will we see more trades? I hope so. I'm of the belief that you got to trade if you can get any sort of value for some of these players. Like I even think Pettersson, I got the Pettersson jersey back here. I think Pettersson should be on the table at this point, right? Because they've got, like, to me, what you don't want is you don't want a lot of players with term. I think this is a new regime. According to Jim Rutherford, and apparently he did an interview with Patrick Johnson of the Province. He did use the word rebuild. I know Patrick Alvin saying something different. He did a podcast the other day and said kind of, I think, retool. So I don't know. This is something I'm really curious about. Will they stick to their guns? Because I think the fan base now, enough's enough. No more retooling. This to me, and again, the Hughes trade has allowed them to go in that sort of that rebuild sense, because you did lose a big player here. Like had Hughes stayed, how are you going to do a rebuild when you've got like all these pillars that, that work, and you can't just like, swap like a Pettersson for like another player. I think that would be too difficult. I think they should look at getting the high draft picks, and, there's been some talk about how they don't want to be bad next year. I don't think you have to be bad, but just have some hope. Like, what does being bad mean? If they miss the playoffs next year, is that the worst thing? In my opinion, it isn't. If you don't have players on term, like to me, you should not be a capped out team if you're 32nd in the league. Like how much cap space do the Canucks even have right now? Barely any. And I think that's assuming that with Pettersson on there. So yeah, they've got like no cap space. Like that's the worst thing that can happen to a team is when you are up against the cap and you're 32nd. Like this roster isn't going to get it done. I think all these guys, other than anyone over the age of 25 should be available if you're doing this properly. Anyone. Even like as great as he is, a Philip Hronek, like I would look at getting rid of guys without term, and you do see the no move clause here, right? A lot of these guys have no moves, but do they even want to be part of a rebuild? I think a big question that, again, I want to ask David Quadrelli about, are there players that want to be around for this? Because this isn't going to be like a quick fix. I think it's going to take some time. Now, yes, they have Demko and Lankinen. I think one of those two has to get traded if you want to do this properly. If you don't want to do this properly, you keep both of them, and then you're going to win some games, and then it doesn't mean anything. Like, I just can't fathom them wanting to continue to build this team and like off what it's had and expect anything different. Like, I think they are better without Hughes. I don't think Hughes was giving them what that's the other thing we got to talk about this Hughes trade is that, like, if Hughes had stayed, there's still an issue with this core. Like, they've tried this over and over again. And by the way, I'm also of the belief too that had they not traded JT Miller, they'd be in the same spot. Look at what Miller's doing in New York right now, right? He's playing okay, but I see he's being moved to wing. He's not exactly the game changer I think they wanted. And I don't think he was for the Canucks either. Whether him and Pettersson were best friends or not, I don't think it matters. I think this was a team destined for being, what they've always been, which is just a team that's not playoff caliber. You got to switch things up. Gavin McKenna will look great. I completely agree. It's a no-brainer to me. It's a no-brainer. Like, you don't have to just tell the team, like, hey, don't win games, but make little decisions. Like, for example, the other night, they put Drew O'Connor in over Atu Ratu. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. Put the younger guys in. Get them some experience, right? Build this team where you're giving the younger guys opportunities. And again, the thing I don't agree with certain fans is like tear everything down. You can't do that because then you got what happened in Chicago last year. Look how miserable Connor Bedard was. He didn't have anyone to play with, right? Like it was a bad situation for one of their best players. He's turned it around this year. And by the way, I saw Bedard got injured. Hope everything's okay there. But you need to have some veterans in there. So that's why I don't think you have to trade everyone. I think you can still do this rebuild, but without having to trade everyone and just trade certain pieces and get ultimate value for it, because the value's never going to be higher, right? When you've got these guys that are capable of doing things. So that's where things get interesting. Like, again, if I'm kind of prioritizing things, I think you do. I mean, does a team want to risk taking Demko? That's the big question with his injury history. You might not, like, first and foremost, you're doing any trades right now, there cannot be any salary retained. Like, unless it's something like Kane this year, or, someone that's on an expiring contract. That I don't mind as long as it's for this year. But, like, I don't want to send Demko to the Kings or some other team and then retaining salary. Like, they've already done that. They did that with Mikheyev. They're still doing that forever with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I don't want to see them do that. I would rather see them trade guys just straight off, even if it means getting lesser value to get the cap off the books. Because here's the thing you can do. And I know it's hard to get free agents now because everyone's re-signing with their teams, but you can get a veteran in there to help out the players on like a 1 or 2 year deal. That's fine. That can happen, or make a trade for it. But what I don't want to see happen is them trade off assets and have to retain salary. That would be bad. Happy to do that. Demko's such a ticking time bomb. I would trade him for an AHL goalie or high draft pick. I would just get off the contract. I agree with you. I don't know if I'd trade him for an AHL. They don't need a goalie. The Canucks are good in goaltending. They got Tolopilo. Like, to me, you trade one or the other. I don't think you trade both. Like, I don't think you trade Lankinen and Demko. Who do you trade? That's a good question. I mean, I kind of feel bad for Demko in the sense that, like, he really does like it here. And that's very refreshing to hear from, especially an American goaltender who, we've heard over the years, right, with the whole Matthew Tkachuk situation, where there's a lot of players who want to play in a U.S. market, right? But Demko really likes it here. And I think that's so rare in a market where we hear about so much, dysfunction with the culture, with how the teams run, all that. Like, I almost feel like, the only issue though, obviously Demko with that, $8.4 million contract that's going to kick in next year. So that takes up a lot of cap space. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with Demko because, like, I like the loyalty that he's showing. And I think him being there, even if he's going to be injured, is fine. Because I think Tolopilo's kind of next man up. You've got Medvedev in the minors that's obviously blossoming very well. I think he's a number of years away, but at least there's a pipeline there, right? It's not like we're talking about the Canucks not having good goaltending. Like, they have that lined up. That's why they were able to trade in Arthur Seelovs. So I don't know. But yeah, I think Demko would be maybe the one you would trade just because of the cap space. And Lankinen, I don't know. I think Lankinen is going to get better. I think he's going to bounce back, but hasn't had a great season either. How do you feel about the Winnipeg Jets so far? They started off strong, but now they're going through adversity. I think they'll figure it out. I think getting Hellebuck back will help. Will they win the cup? I don't know. I think like they never replaced Ehlers. They've got some issues on the back end a little bit. I don't know. I think Winnipeg's a bit of a wild card, but so are most of these teams this season. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have gone through streaks. Would you trade Brock and Elias for Hughes and JT Miller? I would. Jim Rutherford needs to go right away. That's the next move. Bring back Linden or the Sedins. Okay, so I'm going to push back on this. So first and foremost, would you trade Brock and Elias for Hughes and JT Miller? Like right now, having them on the team? I think Miller, I mean, Hughes, it's tough to say. Because like would trading Brock or Elias net you another center? That's what they were missing. Like they did get the center back in the Hughes deal. And then they got the defensive prospect as well. I mean, they're good on defense. The defensive pipeline for the Canucks is as good as it's ever been. I don't remember a time when they had so many, promising defensemen from EP40 to Mancini to Vilander, Sawyer Mignot's in the minors. Like they've got a lot of talent back there that they can that will be ready for the future. And you can just sign guys like a Derek Forbort or whoever to kind of play stopgap for those veterans there. Brock. Yeah, and again, Brock's another kind of loyal guy too, so it's tough to see him. He just signed the contract now, but maybe he wants out. I don't know. My issue with Brock has always been his skating, and he's on a long-term contract, so it's like, is that something you want to have long-term? I mean, you do need some leaders in the room, but that term kind of bothers me, and they obviously just re-signed him as well. Pedersen, again, same thing. I'm on the fence. I think those guys should be available. To answer your question, would I trade them? No, because I could see that Miller. I mean, dude, before Miller left, like there were plenty of times when he had not just issues with Pedersen, but issues with, remember the whole Colin Delia thing a couple of years ago? He's a bit of a hothead and he doesn't play defense. And I like JT Miller. When he was here, loved him. He was great. But there were times when he wouldn't back check, wouldn't play defense. That's a liability. I don't think you want that on the team, not from veteran players. You don't want veteran players coasting back. So that Miller, no. Hughes, yes. But then, it's tough to say. So I think, listen, this is the team they have now. I think they got to look at taking some of those bigger pieces off. And like I said, you don't have to tear down everything, but just, I would like to see maybe a Garland or someone with term. And I realize these guys just signed in the offseason, but I like these guys to be on the table and trade them for high draft picks. Like try and get a first round pick for Kiefer Sherwood. Someone, I was talking to Troy Nowak, who by the way, I'll probably get on the show again next week, Columbus Blue Jackets guy. I want to get Kent Johnson out of Columbus. I think that's, and I know some people may say that's again, getting a guy who hasn't maybe panned out to their expectations, but Kent Johnson's local. Like you bring Kent Johnson in here. Let's say you trade Garland and then maybe you trade like a prospect. And I know they shouldn't be trading prospects, but like you're getting an NHL ready player now and Kent Johnson, who's younger, who's a local guy. Like I would love that. I think those are the type of moves they should look at, but I don't want them all to be the moves like that. Like again, you get Zeb Bulliam here, who's NHL ready and ready to play. I don't necessarily need all those moves. I would like some draft picks as well. Because with the draft picks, yeah, sometimes they don't pan out, but first round draft picks typically do pan out. So I would like to see a little bit more than that. What was the best year of the Atlanta Thrashers had when they were down here? I think they made the playoffs once, didn't they? Let me double check. I don't really remember. And by the way, the reason Antoine's asking is because he's from Atlanta. I've only ever been to the Atlanta airport. I've never actually been in the city. I got to go check it out sometime. They only made the playoffs once, and it was 2006, 2007. So yeah, that doesn't help. Reminds me of the Vancouver Grizzlies here. Yeah, lost in round one. Never made the play. Imagine that. But they had 10 seasons, made the playoffs one time, and they lost in the first round. That's rough. That's not good. What was the best hockey fight of all time? I'd have to go back and look. American crumbles under the bright lights of the Canadian market. Matthews, Hughes to Chuck Goudreau. Okay, so going to push back on this as well. Again, I appreciate the questions, Joe. Always good to hear from you. Matthews isn't crumbling under the market. Matthews is hurt or something. I mean, if you look at the stats right now, he's something's up. His skating speed's down. He's not, something's up with him. So I don't think it's him crumbling under the pressure. Hughes isn't crumbling under the pressure. He's just like other than this season, he's been exceptional. I mean, Hughes has been a game changer for the Canucks. So I won't even say Hughes is bucking under the pressure. I think Hughes just wants out of the situation. I think if Quinn Hughes was in, give me a random American market, if Hughes was in I don't know, let's say Buffalo right now, I think he'd be doing the same thing. He wants out. It's got nothing to do with Vancouver as a city or the people here or Canadian market. I think it has everything to do with the fact the team's not winning. To Chuck, he just wanted to play in the U.S. Some players are like that. Same with Gaudreau. I don't think it was a pressure thing. I think they just to Chuck and Gaudreau specifically wanted to play in American markets. You can't blame a player for wanting that. I don't think it's crumbling under the pressure. And I think there's a lot of American players who do like playing in Canada, right? So to each their own. I think every case is situational. It's not specific there. They get the sad pace. They look sad is what I meant by crumbling. Yeah, but I think that's the environment. I don't think, like, again, go see it. You want to see sad face, go to Buffalo. How do you think they're handled? By the way, Buffalo firing their GM, Kevin Adams, which is long overdue. I got to get Mike Straw back on here on the show to talk about that. Jarkko Kekalainen, now the new GM for them, and we'll see if they can turn things around. That's another team. But the saddest part about Buffalo is they did a rebuild, and it still hasn't panned out. And they obviously, like, same thing. They just have a... they just don't have the right mix. Like, I think they need to make a big trade too. Like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who they would get rid of. But I think like again, you need to change the core, I guess is what I'm getting at. And we've seen teams do this before. You know, people compared the Hughes trade to like when the Sens got rid of Erik Karlsson, and that ended up getting Tim Stützle, and they obviously were able to build and go that way. And the Sens look on the come up. Colorado, everyone forgets Matt Duchene. And when they had that group of guys back, a number of years back, when they traded Duchene, it was like, okay, we got to change the makeup of this team. And they did. And now Colorado, one of the best teams in the league. They won a couple years ago. That's what the Canucks need to do. They need to change the core. So I am all in favor of getting rid of one of, or all of, or at least most of them, Pettersson, Besser, Garland, like one of these guys, because this core is not getting it done. It's been a number of years now with the same core. Hughes was part of that core too. But they need to change course here because it's not getting it done. And sometimes that's just the way teams go. The makeup doesn't work. I think the Leafs are in that spot now too. Like, they lost Marner. That's one of them. Maybe they need to trade someone else because I don't know what the Leafs, like, I think the Leafs, they're just, the goaltending's all over the place. Anyways, we're going to be joined by David Quadrelli here in about 2 minutes here, guys. I wanted to quickly mention some of the action from last night before he hops on. We'll get into everything else, but really excited to talk to David. So you look at some of the action last night, Canucks blanking the Rangers, man, okay, so the Rangers are another team like the Canucks that I also think need to change up their makeup. They might look at a team like Buffalo and say, hey, we got to switch some stuff up here. And they got Panarin, who's coming up to free agency. Like, that whole thing's a mess right now. I know, and they got the better coach now with Mike Sullivan, but they got to switch it up. Wings get the win over the Islanders, which is good. The Bruins beating the Mammoth. Bruins have been on fire this year. That was a team I thought was going to have to rebuild. Apparently not. They got a really good coach in there in Marco Sturm. Jackets beat the Ducks last night in overtime. Good to see. The Canadians continue to lose. They got to figure out their goaltending. I actually think they might need to get a goaltender and get some veteran in there just as a stopgap because their goaltending's been atrocious. I think I saw something that Montembeault got sent down. Leafs came back and beat the Blackhawks, but it's smoke and mirrors. The Leafs need to do something. They're not looking good. The Wild, I think they've outscored their opponents, 11-2 the last two games, so they look awesome. Again, cup contender. The Oilers beat the Penguins. Penguins are falling a little bit, right? What have they been up to the last couple of games? Loss. Wow, they're on a real tough skid there. Five losses in a row. So that's Stuart Skinner. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to mention the Stuart Skinner trade. They finally traded him. The Oilers did. Avalanche beating the Kraken, Sharks beating the Flames. So tonight, Kings and Panthers, Jets and Blues, Devils and Golden Knights. As we're creeping up to the Christmas break, I do wonder if we'll see any moves in the next couple of days. Probably not. I think teams will hold tight and see what's happening with let things kind of simmer a bit and then change course. But there's a lot going on there as well. So we'll have to see. From the core, they've already lost Horvat, JT Miller, and now Hughes. I know, but again, I think there's more of that core, though. I think Besser's in that core. I think Pettersson's in that core. It's not getting it done. That's all I'm saying. None of those guys are difference makers is what I'm getting at. And I think you can get a difference maker if you draft properly, right? I think if the Canucks can get Gavin McKenna, and maybe it's too early to say this, but there's certain glimpses of this, I think Gavin McKenna could be a difference maker. That's what you need to be focused on. Because you can't, getting these 20-year-old guys that, are mainstays in the NHL, that's not going to do it. You need a difference maker. Nashville's been playing well. I'm surprised they have at a fire sale. I don't think they have what it takes to go far. I'm sure they will start selling. I know Ryan O'Reilly's name's been out there for sure. Is that enough to say a rebuild's complete? Hughes got 4 first-round picks, all nicely spaced out for contracts. We pick up 3 more this year. All they need is huge contracts in 5 or 6 years. That's true. I agree with that, Kevin, but they'll have to navigate this properly, right? So, like I said, I'm not of the belief they have to trade everyone on the roster that has term. I'd like to see at least 2 or 3 names there, maybe a goalie. One of the goalies has got to get traded too. I think that's the fair way to go here as far as trying to rebuild. So again, though, it's all in what ownership wants to do. I think they had, Jim Rutherford had the quote in the Province the other day. saying that the ownership's on board with the rebuild. I'll believe it when I see it, right? They should have rebuilt back in they should have rebuilt after Gillis was gone, but they didn't do it. They tried to do the rebuild on a fly, and yeah, we know how that turned out. I don't know. It's just making the playoffs isn't enough. You have to take drastic measures. There's been more good examples of rebuilds that work than examples of them not working. There's very few that don't work, like Buffalo. And Buffalo was just a mix of, not getting the right people in there, trading certain players, all that stuff. So the ask for O'Reilly is wild, as it should be. Centers are a premium in the NHL right now. Them and right shot defensemen are like the two biggest premiums right now. So if you can get a center, like get a good haul and look at it there and figure it out. But you're right, Nashville should be selling. Even if they come on, it's hard to say like how they're going to turn things around. All right, super happy to have my next guest on here. It's the first time he's been on. I should have got him on a while ago, but happy he could make some time for us here today. David Quadrelli, managing editor for the Nation Network, Canucks Army. You know him everywhere. If you're from the Vancouver market, you know who he is here. Dave, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing awesome. Thanks for making some time. I had to get you on to talk about the Quinn Hughes trade. Before we talk about the details and everything like that, what was your immediate reaction to finding out, and where were you when you found out the news?
I've said it so many times, people are getting tired of hearing about it, but I was playing a game of Scrabble with my mom. She came over to my house and we were going to have a little game night. And I was like, oh yeah, Friday night. No big deal. It'll be easy. And then around 4:30, the Hughes trade hits and I go into the seat that I'm sitting in right now and had to work for the next 2.5 hours. So it was, champagne problems, right? It could be worse, right? So
yes.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, I was in the middle of a game of Scrabble with my mother.
Were you surprised at what they got in return? Because I think there was always this question of like, they would get a trade done and then people would look back and go, yeah, this is okay, but not really what we wanted. But I think this was a slam dunk. I think even for both sides, I think with Minnesota, getting ahead of this thing, Guerin, like we heard after the fact saying that this was sort of the initial offer. Like, I think this was one of those rare trades where I think it's going to benefit both parties here.
Yeah, 100%. And look, in the lead up, we were all saying the same thing of no one wins a Quinn Hughes trade if you're the selling team, right? Like if you're the Canucks, you're not going to win a Quinn Hughes trade. They certainly set themselves up to give themselves the best possible chance of winning it when we look back on it, right? And to your initial question of the package, I was surprised by it. Buium is a legit top 5 prospect in the game. He's the best defensive prospect in the game, aside from Matthew Schaefer, obviously, right? Like I have to make sure I throw that in there. Matthew Schaefer, what 100%. He's doing at 18 years old, ridiculous. But Buium is a really, really good prospect. And again, he had a really interesting sit down with Johnny Lazarus. We wrote about it today at CanucksArmy.com. And one of the things he said is like, he's never changed teams. The only time he changes teams is when he goes up to the next level, right? Like when he's playing midget and then he goes up to the national development program and all that sort of stuff. And you go up and up. That was the only time he's changed teams. So it was totally new for him, but he did talk about being a guy that likes to stay in the same place and hopefully can stay in Vancouver for a long time. Canucks fans are certainly happy to hear that. And again, I'm only talking about Buium. They got Rossi, they got Liam Ogren. And then they get the first round pick, which is a real mystery box. Like, I don't think there's any trade protection on that or, lottery protection on that pick, right? And that makes it a really interesting one. Minnesota shouldn't be a wildcard team. They've also been dominant ever since they got Quinn Hughes, and that was to be expected. But it's possible that it's in the early 20s, it's in the late teens. It's very possible. But we'll see in the end where that pick ends up being. But my point being, I was surprised by the package. I was surprised that they got as much as they did. Now, how we look back on the Hughes trade is going to be changed depending on what they do next, right? Like as a team, what they do next, how far into this rebuild do they go? You look back and remember, it was a similar path to getting Quinn in Vancouver. It was a similar path to getting Pettersson in Vancouver, right? It was, okay, we're going to try to be good. Okay, that didn't work. Now we're tanking. Now we're a bad team. We'll sell off our pending UFAs. It was Hansen, it was Burrows, and now we're going to draft high. They get Pettersson, they get Quinn Hughes. And then they accelerate out of it once they had those two guys, right? And they accelerated. Hindsight's 2020, but at the time there was people saying it as well. You make the JT Miller trade, you trade your first round pick. That's your official. We're done rebuilding. We're moving forward. And they did it too soon. They did it too soon, and there's no other way to put it. So now we look on the Hughes trade and say, okay, this is a nice start, but how far into this can they go? Again, you look at the top teams, the Colorados, now the Minnesotas, these teams that are at the top of the NHL standings, they have so many guys. They have an army. They have an army behind them. And as soon as they get some injuries, it doesn't mean you tank to 32nd in the league standings. It means that, okay, maybe you're not first in your division, maybe you're not second. Now you're a wild card team and you'd like to be higher in the standings, but you don't fall out of it completely. Like, that's not what's happening with these top teams. So that's what the Canucks need to build. The way to build that is being bad for a few years here, not just one by accident. Yeah. It's being bad for a few years, gaining those young assets, those high draft picks, and using them and hopefully hitting on them.
Well, and that's the thing. We don't know what the plan is going forward. Like, I see Patrick Allvin goes on 100% Hockey, and he's talking about how, they're like kind of summarizing, like, it seems like they don't want to be bad next year. They want to, continue to build on this. And then we hear Jim Rutherford saying he's got with Patrick Johnson from the province saying that, the ownership has given the green light with the rebuild. And I guess, the question is, like, how are they going to tackle this? Like, we want to see them keep the first pick from Minnesota that they got, the first round pick. You would ideally like to not just see the UFAs be on the table, but, maybe guys with term as well. Like, what sense do you get? Because I don't think anyone has the answer. We're getting mixed messages. And then the other thing I wonder is Patrick Allvin going to be here after the season? Because it certainly didn't sound like a vote of confidence from Jim Rutherford when we heard which Bill Guerin confirmed, that Jim Rutherford took over that trade talks with Quinn Hughes. So it makes me wonder, there's a lot of things at play here.
Yeah, there is, certainly. And there's a few parts to your question, so I'll try to get to each. Yeah. Allvin, I don't know if he's going to be here. I really don't. Lame duck GM, right? There's no guarantee that he's going to be here next year. I think ownership really believes in Jim Rutherford, and ultimately it is ownership's call, but really they're going to lean on Rutherford for Allvin. But does it say anything that Rutherford didn't trust Allvin to make that trade? I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So again, I don't know. I have no inside knowledge of what's going to happen with Patrick Allvin. I did find it really interesting, and I don't think you can ignore that Quinn Hughes went out of his way, quite clearly out of his way, to not thank Patrick Allvin in either his thank you post or when he was talking about the deal in the aftermath. Even mentioned Pat Brisson and clarified, just so people knew he wasn't talking about Allvin. He said, Patrick Allvin, hey, yeah. Pat, I'm talking about Pat, my agent. He said it a few times, and you have to at least clock that. Like, again, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, that means everybody hates Allvin. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that it's something that makes you go, okay. And you put it all together. And yeah, I think what we're left with is you don't know what's going to happen with Allvin. Now, the other parts of your question, I don't know, like, this rebuild, like, again, you're right. Like, you don't know what to expect because ownership has greenlit a rebuild, but how fast are they going to accelerate out of it? Like, that's the golden question, right? And how deep into it are you going to go? Doesn't sound like Filip Hronek wants to go anywhere. Okay, that's fine. Dash Demko doesn't sound like he wants to go anywhere. Okay, well, if he keeps doing what he did.
That's the big one. Well, no, I just said before you hopped on here, I like the loyalty from Demko because, again, a lot of American players, you don't see them saying, like, I like it here, I want to stay here, all that. I respect that. But yeah, to me, you got to trade one of them. Like, you can't keep Rankin and Demko. It's too much of a cap hit for a team that's supposed to be rebuilding.
Yeah, not only Lankin and Demko, but like the way Demko's playing, he's going to ruin the tank. Like, if part of your plan, if part of your plan is to get a top 5 pick, you're not doing that with Thatcher Demko keeps this up. So again, it's Demko, it's Garland, it's all of these guys that are signed long term. Like, I don't think you'd trade Brock Besser. I think that'd be a little short sighted just because of what he's meant to this team and what,
and the way they treated him last year too, like that. I mean, come on, like, after everything, and then you bring him back, then you're going to trade him again. To me, unless he wants out, that, which I don't think he does. He's happy here. I think you keep him as well.
You talk about culture, and Brock's an important guy to that, I think. So yeah, it comes down to, and again, this isn't to say anything bad about Garland or Demko or Hronek or any of those guys that we're talking about, but if you're going to actually commit to this, you're going to need to move at least one of them. You're going to have to move one of these vets that's signed for longer than just this season.
Yeah. What did you make of Garland's interview after the game against New Jersey? Because he didn't look too happy, and it's probably one of the first times I've seen him do an interview where he just looked like kind of, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but it didn't look good. Like, it seemed like, and obviously him and Hughes are buddies. They're both American. Like, you can understand that he's a little bit upset by that. But do you get the sense that maybe he's like, I don't know if I want to stick around for this? Like, to me, if there's guys that are even thinking that, those are the guys you should be looking at getting rid of. I just saw Philly has Forrester out. Maybe there's a fit there. I was talking to my buddy who, is Columbus Blue Jackets guy. I'm like, Kent Johnson would sure look nice on the Canucks if they could work out a deal with Garland and something else. So I don't know. Do you did you take anything away from that interview with Dan Murphy on the weekend?
I will say this. I've been in the Canucks locker room for a lot of this season, and we've seen Garland be in a bad mood a lot. And I think, I don't know how much it has to do with Hughes, as much as it does the Canucks aren't a good team, and he wants them to be better. But I don't think you can ignore the other part of that, and it's that Hughes was just traded right before that interview, right? Like, it was it's still really fresh. He was asked about Hughes. I always struggle to try to pretend like I know what's going through a player's mind. So I will say, like, Garland's been in a bad mood a lot this year. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, this is the first time I've seen it. This is because of the Hughes trade. This is because he wants out. But hey, bad body language. We were parsing it with Quinn. And what did it actually mean? It was right around the time that he had informed the club, little did we know, that he wanted out, that he wanted to go. So I'm not going to say it doesn't mean that, but I'm also not going to say, oh yeah, for sure means that, because I've seen Garland have bad body language plenty this season.
I think if you're the team, you got to go to these players and be like, do you want to be a part of this?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take a bit. Like I think that has to be number one priority. Figure out who wants to stay, who doesn't. Look at the cap situation. Like I just said it before you hopped on here. You can't be a capped out team and be 32nd in the league. That's like the worst case scenario. So they got to shed some salary. I also think too, and I think this goes without saying, they cannot make any trades with retained salary. Like if it's like a Evander Kane this season or Sherwood, sure. But like anything beyond that, like we went through this with Mikheyev, we're still paying for OEL, right? Like it's, to me, that's something that like absolutely should not be happening if you're looking to move assets.
Oh, 100% agree with you on all of that, really, all of that, especially the retained salary stuff. Like, keep your flexibility, because I know the cap's going up and the opportunities probably won't be there like they were before, but you look at a team like with all the Sean Monahan stuff, right? That was a lot of retained salary was being used and it was being utilized. So keep that free as best you can. I 100% agree with you. Maybe like you said, Sherwood, Kane, just to make it a little more enticing, but nothing long term. No, that should be off the table.
Do you think there's a market for Evander Kane at this point? I mean, it really has not panned out at all this year. He's taken a lot of penalties. I know, you guys, I think it was you guys was talking about kind of how he's helped like the team generate a bit of offense, but to me, there's so much downside. Now, if you're tanking, obviously it's good to keep him, but I think there are teams that may look at him and say, we need a little bit more grit, and maybe a change of scenery could fix that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you think Evander Kane's given the Canucks grit this year?
No, not at all.
I count 0 fights. I count a low number of hits per 60. Lower than Atu Ratu, by the way. Like, seriously, that's how low we are. And I said this on Canucks Convo yesterday, and it was more of a, I don't want to keep talking about Evander Kane, so I just said it. I don't know if it'll happen. It's just more of a prediction that, like, I think the Canucks might be Evander Kane's last NHL team.
Yeah, I can see.
I don't know. It hasn't really done much this year, and you give him some benefit of the doubt, and we certainly did. But we're almost halfway through the season, right? He and what I was saying is he missed all of last year, so you give him some benefit of the doubt. But like, he hasn't done much, hasn't hit, taken a lot of dumb penalties. Like, that's a huge part of the Evander Kane story.
Thing I see. Anything I see this season, it's Canucks got a penalty. Who did it? Yeah, it's Kane, obviously.
Yeah, and it's like stick infractions. It's not like, he took an interference penalty because he hit a guy and he hit him just a little too late or charging. It's like stick infractions from not moving your feet. So I don't know. Like, he hasn't looked good this year. And like, I'm not telling any team. What I'm saying isn't anything that any team doesn't already know. And do you think there's a team out there that even at 50% retained, remember that those rules are changed now? The Canucks can't offer Evander Kane at 75% retained. It's 50%. That's the maximum they can offer him at. Do you think there's any team out there that's looking at bringing in that cap? It's still over $2 million. Like, it's like, what would it be? Like 2.65? I think it would end up being. You think there's a team out there that's saying we want Evander Kane for 2.65? And if there is, what are you getting? Like a 6th or 7th round pick? I don't know, man. It hasn't worked out, and I don't see him being moved. I just don't see there being much of a market for Evander Kane.
Yeah, you never know come the trade deadline, but I guess we'll have to sort of see how that all pans out. What do you make? So Pedersen's going to be coming back, obviously, and I think things are going to get a little bit crowded. Like, do you see any trades? Like we've heard, Lucas Reichel obviously got sent down. Is there? I know Rick Dollywall reported that there might be some trade talks happening. Like, is there going to be any odd men out? Archie Baines got put on waivers, did clear today. I saw as well. Like, do you see any moves in the immediate future being made just because of how many players came in from that Hughes trade?
Well, they certainly should. Like, I don't know if anything's going to happen. I hope it does because, man, you've got Jonathan Lekkerimäki scoring game-winning goals down in Abbotsford. He looks like, and then you saw his walk-off celebration, right? After he scored against the Wranglers. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, so much swagger. I looked at that and said, get this guy out of the AHL. This guy is hoping that tunnel leads to the NHL. Get him out of the A. Like, he looks way too good for that level. And I know you want to see more at the NHL level, but and at Harmon and I just had this debate. I don't think the lesson with Jonathan Lekkerimäki is, oh, he needs to go dominate the AHL again. He's already done that. I don't think he's learning anything down there. Now, Harmon made a good point that it's hard to point to cases of guys who got over-seasoned in the AHL, but to me, you clear out as many roster spots as you can by making these trades that we're talking about to get Jonathan Lekkerimäki up to the big club. I don't want to see him play in the AHL anymore. I don't want to see Liam Ogren get sent down and play in the AHL. There's this sentiment that, oh, let Ogren and Lekkerimäki go tear up the A. It's a rebuild. Like, let these guys get their reps in the NHL and just have a long leash and an understanding that, hey, you're going to make mistakes, but we want you to learn from those mistakes. Now, look, the easy argument against what I'm saying is that there have been players. You look at Adam Gaudette, you look at Vasily Podkolzin, who got their NHL opportunity and it was yo-yoing up and down the lineup. I'd like to see it in a situation where he's ready for a top 6 role and you just keep him there. And even if he makes a defensive mistake, he still gets that shot. So I don't know what the answer is, but man, I want to see them make some trades and clear out some spots. If you have these guys just sitting down in the A, clearly too good for the league. I don't know how much benefit they're getting from playing in the AHL at this point. So yeah, I want to see these guys get shots.
Well, that was, I think, part of the reason they wanted Olgren as well. They had Lekkerimäki and Olgren played together, right, years ago. So maybe they can recreate that on the NHL level. So I'm totally with you there. And I just wonder too about some of the coaching decisions, right? Like Ratu sitting, like you should be playing your younger guys and putting them out there, especially against a team like New York, who, like, coming in, there was all this drama with Mika Zibanejad, and they're not like, the teams like, what is it? Their coach was kind of just going on about how, like, has this happened before? Like, you're getting a team that's in a position of weakness. You would think they would want to put a lineup on that's a little bit less, like put Lankinen in too. So I don't know. I'm just, I'm like you guys. I'm a little bit worried that they're going to just, like, I don't know, try and, get back to where they were last year, which is the higher pick than they want. Like it's very concerning to see that's sort of happening there. So are you optimistic things are going to change, or you think that they're going to just still try and win games here?
No, you have to be optimistic. And let me make something clear, right? Yeah. Like, the players are going to try to win games. The players are always going to try to win games. The job of management when you're a rebuilding team is to, like, if Connor Garland's not a part of your future, right? Then you need to move him now. Like, you've got to move him now. And I know he's extended, but he was extended when they thought things would be different, right? Like, the plan has clearly changed. So now your decision-making needs to reflect that new plan. So it's not Connor Garland's fault that he's still a Canuck, right? Like, it's not Connor Garland's fault that they're winning games. And hell, Thatcher Demko, what are you going to tell? You're not going to go tell Thatcher Demko, hey, let some in. Like, we got to lose games. Like, no, he's trying to make the Olympic team. Like, these guys are going to try. The job of management is to take them out of the roster, take them out of the equation, because, hey, Thatcher, thanks for your service. We love that you want to be here, but we have to move on because we're going to try to build a cup contender here. And we don't think you're going to be a part of that in 4 or 5 years when we're ready to contend for a cup. Honestly, like, Thatcher Demko's 30. Connor Garland, 30 years old. What's your window? Identify your window. All of your decision-making needs to line up with that window. That's what I'm a little worried about, but I am optimistic as well, right? How can you not be with what they ended up getting in the Quinn Hughes trade? It's cautiously optimistic because the worry, like I've said about 6 times, is that they're going to do exactly what they did with Quinn that made them lose Quinn and just try to accelerate out of a rebuild a little too early.
Couple quick questions and we'll get you out of here. David Comp, I think, has kind of worked out a little bit for the Canucks as far as the defensive side of things. Do you think he's going to be here beyond this season, or do you think he's a guy too that they might look at moving on? Because he is a bit older, obviously.
Yeah, you got to move Camp, right? Like, Braden Cooch should be in the NHL next year.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Ideally, right? You've got Max Sasson, you've got Achu Ratu. Yeah, Kemp can kill penalties. I'd be curious what everything means for Teddy Bluger. I think they like
Yeah.
Bluger more than they like Kemp. Like Kemp's killed penalties well, but he's been a black hole at 5-on-5.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I think Bluger can give you the penalty killing they're getting from Kemp. I think Kemp's a nice stopgap until Teddy Bluger gets back. And again, I don't even know if Bluger's going to be around. Like Bluger might be one of the guys that gets traded, but you can go find Teddy Bluger. You can go find David Kemp. I'm not worried about that. But no, I don't see Kemp sticking around beyond this year. I don't think he's done enough to warrant another NHL contract with the Canucks at least.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. And then just quickly back to Demko. Like, I think the hard thing with him too is like, there's also the argument of like, well, you need to play Demko a bit if you want to get some trade value for him, right? Like, what do you make of that theory as well? Because it is kind of tough. My thing is just play Demko against the good teams and then play Lankinen against the bad teams. How hard is that to do? You know?
Yeah, I like that. Or should it be reverse? Demko gets 7 shutouts playing against the bad teams,
that's
right?
True. Yeah,
really
exactly,
rebuilds his value. Look at this guy; he's got a 978 save percentage. Don't look at who he's been playing against. And then if you start Lankin against the good teams, you still get your losses. You still get your tank. You still get your tank fix. But in all seriousness, yeah, like you have to play Demko to showcase him. The worry I have is that they're not showcasing him, and that it's just we got to play Demko because we want to win games, and that's the head coach making that decision, right? So, yeah. I don't know. Are they going to showcase Demko? I think you'd love to see that, but are they just going to play Demko so that they can get back in the race and sell some hope, right? Like let's not forget that's been a big part of what this team does is sell hope for the next season. Are they going to go on a Bruce there it is kind of finish for the season where they finish strong and the young guys, Rossi, Buyam, all these guys are finishing strong and we've got first round picks and we're still going to add to it. Again, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but cautiously optimistic.
Well, I will say people are more engaged now because they've made this trade. It's crazy as that sounds, like with Hughes being out, is that like I had friends text me that I never used to get texts this season because people are like, I'm not watching the game. Like I don't want to watch this train wreck. But now that you've got some hope, like you've said, people want to watch Bullion play. They want to see what's the new guys are doing. Like I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, my dad, whoever, just messaging me being like, I'm actually watching, like, I'm watching this whole game front to back because like there's actually something interesting to watch. It's not the same thing over and over again. I'm sure you're getting the same thing as well from your viewers.
100%. Yeah, we're seeing that, but it's just, that's the thing is that kind of is what worries you is that means that there's interest in the team again, and that's great for the team. Like they'll be happy about that, but is that putting pressure on them to actually commit to a long-term rebuild and to build a cup contender? I would say it's doing the opposite.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Okay, before we go, I should mention how you and I actually met. I met you at a UFC event a couple years ago. Do you I did see the GIF a couple weeks ago. I gave you some props for that with I think it was the Islam GIF on there. Would you describe yourself as like a casual fan? What is your fandom with the UFC? I was curious.
Yeah, I became a lot more of a fan. I actually started training myself.
Oh, cool. Were you training?
Yeah.
Not that I want to reveal anything, but you're training because there's a lot of gyms here, obviously.
Well, I don't do it during hockey season. I realized during hockey season it wasn't enough, but shout out to Gibson MMA, Lance Gibson.
No way.
Senior.
So you saw Lance. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
obviously, let me be clear. Novice, never trained with Lance Jr. But Lance Gibson Senior, Mr. Gibson there, he was awesome. I had a great time. But yeah, Gibson MMA. So once I started training myself, I became a much more of a fan of it. And obviously I was watching Junior this past weekend, right, against King Green. So I've been pretty big into the sport and always going to be rooting for the Gibson family.
That's good. Let's see if I think they might come. We'll see if they come back this year. They're going to Seattle in February. So I don't know. They seem to like Vancouver though, even though the barricade fell. That event I think we went to a couple of years back. So we'll see what happens. David, thanks so much for doing this. I got to get you back on at some point. I always get Dave Hall on. I always forget to get you on because I know you're super busy. But anything you got coming up for Canucks Army, anything we can check out, by all means, the floor is yours. You can take it away here.
Oh, just tons of stuff every day. CanucksArmy.com. I don't even know what we have planned. We go day to day. We go day to day, right? To borrow a phrase from a past GM in this market. Day to day. CanucksArmy.com. We've got wall-to-wall coverage of the team. So yeah, CanucksArmy.com. That's where you check us out.
There we go. That is David Quadrelli.